In recent times, there's been a debate that flares up on the 23rd of April of every year on the topic of St. George. People ask who he was and whether he even existed. And crucially for us, why is he the Saint of England? Very common claims include that he was a Turkish fella or a refugee, and so politically the opposite of many Englishmen who happen to celebrate his, death day. Neither of these are true. In fact, Georgie Boy was a Greek and a Roman soldier who had never even heard of Turkey, the nation or the bird. It does raise the question, though. Why of all people is he the patron saint of a place he never went to, and similarly did not even exist in his own lifetime? Well, it's not for a lack of choice, believe it or not, but England has managed to produce its fair share of paragons of virtue, and has at least a couple of characters worthy of sainthood. For a very long time, there were roughly 2 English kings who were venerated as unofficial saints: Edmund the Martyr, who was shot full of arrows by the Vikings, and Edward the Confessor, who had never slept with his wife, or anyone else for that matter. They can be seen here next to John the Baptist and looking over the boy King Richard II, who himself is having a nice chat with a bunch of angels. Up in the corner, however, you'll find that familiar flag you'll only tend to see every 2 to 4 years. This, of course, is St. George's Cross, and it's a pretty popular design. England uses it, but so does Barcelona, and Sardinia, and Genoa, and Alessandria, and Bologna, and Padua, and Reggio Emilia, and Mantua, and Georgia, and I don't think that's all of them either. The use of the flag goes beyond the slick simplicity of red on white. These places use St. George's Cross because they quite like the fella, and they all have something in common: the Crusades. Imagine you're about to go campaigning in the Holy Land for several years. Who do you want looking over you? Some pious monk who's been venerated as a saint, or Georgie Boy? Sure, charity is cool, I guess, if you're some kind of peasant, but real knights love nothing more than scrapping mythological beasts and saving damsels in distress. That's why so many Italian states started using his flag as their own. And according to legend, Richard the Lionheart put his army under George's spiritual protection, and in so doing kick-started an English tradition that lasts to this day. The Georgians loved scrapping and loved George so much that everyone just started calling them the Georgians. St. George became the embodiment of the crusading knight and was the most martial figure in the Christian world. Edward III, who was always up for a fight, made George the patron saint of the Order of the Garter and battered the French twice. Since then, George has always had a place in English culture, and especially in times of war. Henry V evoked him at Agincourt, and Shakespeare name-drops him in 3 of his plays. Yeah, it might seem a little odd that England's patron saint is in English, but George wasn't Italian, or Catalan, or even Georgian either. St. Andrew definitely wasn't Scottish, and no one's complaining about that. Even Paddy wasn't Irish, he was just there to help him out. Instead, most nations have picked their patron saints out of tradition, and England is no exception. The earliest records of St. George's reverence in England predates the Norman invasion of 1066, and even Alfred the Great conjures up his martyrdom in his fight against the Vikings. The Anglo-Saxon connection makes even more sense when you look at their favourite character, Beowulf, who is similarly warlike and dragon slayery. And his story is one of the few Anglo-Saxon myths that have been able to be passed down to us. The truth being that Georgie Boy and Beowulf have a common ancestry as archetypal figures and have a lot more to do with myth than religion.